Hello and welcome to another episode of New World to Go. I am your host, Redbird, and with me is my good friend BDLG. Bordy, how you doing tonight, buddy?
I'm doing pretty good, man. I've been watching a whole lot of this Lion King show on Netflix, and it's got me.
You mean Tiger King?
Tiger King, yeah, Tiger King, and it's dude, it's quite interesting. So it's got me kind of jacked up, but it's but I'm doing good, man. How about
Good. I also binged it since we're both probably stuck at home at some
Yep.
points in this fine reality that we live in right now. And yeah, dude, it just shows you how weird people can be sometimes. There's a lot of
Yeah.
strange people out. If you're an exotic tiger owner, then don't take any offense to this. But yeah, it's very strange people. Maybe you're a normal tiger owner. I don't know, but it seems like these people are not normal. And it's entertaining, and we'll just say that. All right, well, we got a little bit of a show for you guys. There was no actual news, so we don't have a lot of concrete information to cover, but we are going to speculate just a little bit about a couple of topics. We're going to go over the closed beta possible launch day that we kind of found out through someone being banned on Twitch. We also have how many people we think are going to be playing the game day one. There's a lot of discussion on Reddit on what possible the numbers might look like. And we're going to kind of go over like previous releases of MMOs and see what we think New World or where we think New World is going to land. And then at the end of the show, we're going to kind of go over what we think Amazon needs to do to have a successful launch. And me and Bordy are pretty veteran. I would consider seasoned veteran MMO players. So we've been through a lot of MMO launches, and we're going to kind of go over maybe what kills a game immediately on launch or slows down the growth of it nevertheless. So Bordy, let's start with closed beta. Now there was an article on Reddit. Again, this is a common theme of this episode. Hope you guys don't mind. That a streamer, a Spanish streamer, posted a date on his stream or showed a letter from Amazon on his stream that released or hinted at a closed beta date, and then immediately got banned from Twitch. Now I don't know. We have no idea if the date is true. If it's a real date, but nevertheless, we kind of wanted to use that opportunity or story to kind of bounce ideas off when we thought closed beta would actually be. Now, the date that the guy said in his post was April 18th. Is that right, Bordy?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
And me and you have kind of talked. We talk off air a lot, and we thought the game was we thought closed beta was definitely going to be within mid to late April. So that date kind of hits in our little estimation. So, Bordy, what is your ideas on a closed beta date?
Yeah, I mean that seems reasonable. The 18th or so, but the 18th is on a Saturday, and for some reason, I just don't think it'll drop on a Saturday. Most of the time, most of the time when things like this happens, it usually happens during the week, right? Like that, like a Tuesday or something seems more plausible. So I'm betting like the 21st maybe, but I think the 18th is probably a pretty good guess. And then the dude got banned, so maybe he did have some inside information. Who knows, man? I don't know.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting to think that would travel that fast. But you know who runs Twitch, Bordy? Amazon.
Yes,
So
I do. Yeah,
you would think
funny.
if maybe
Yeah.
that's a bad place to spoil something. If you're going to spoil something, is the people, literally the people that made the game, are associated with the same platform you're trying to spoil it on. So, nevertheless, it made it to Reddit. Go ahead.
Yeah, it did. I do think the 18th, is much more likely than the first week of April. I don't think we're going to see beta the first or second week of April for sure. I think it's going to be, third, fourth week of April for sure.
Yeah, for sure. I think definitely mid to late April. A lot of the games you look at, they do this little closed beta period, and then they do have a little bit of a gap between then and launch for them to kind of refine maybe some of the feedback that we give. Are they going to change, that make sweeping changes like they did after the alpha a year ago? Probably not. But are they going to make some quick passes on maybe some things that don't make a lot of sense? The small systems within crafting and the questing and all of that? Then possibly, yes. So we would assume that it's not going to be closed beta butted up against the release date. So that in between, like maybe even very beginning of May, late April, I think is very plausible for a date. And it can't come soon enough, Bordy, because I mean, we're both kind of looking for something to do.
Yes, I am so ready for this thing to drop. I'm ready to get in beta and just try it out, right? Like I know release isn't happening until May, and there's gonna be a wipe and all that jazz, but I'm so pumped to play it, and I'm just ready to give it a shot, man. So hopefully, surely, I mean, we're sitting here at the 29th, the date of this recording, so I'm hoping that at least within the next week we'll have maybe a date of closed beta. That's what I'm hoping for. I know a lot of other people are too. I've been seeing that everywhere. Like when's closed beta? When's closed beta? See that on Twitter and on Reddit and everywhere. So people are anxious, man. People are ready to get in here and play.
Yes. Another common thing, and this is off topic for the podcast, but is can I stream alpha? And I see so many questions about that on Reddit and everywhere about the NDA, and not a lot of people are abiding by the NDA. Let's just say that there's a lot of information.
There's a lot of information.
Yeah. I don't think we're being whistleblowers. I think if they can catch a guy streaming on Twitch immediately, I'm sure that they know that people are pretty active on Reddit, constantly talking about stuff in the alpha. So I think generally, though, the mods over there do a pretty good job of keeping that stuff off there as well. I constantly see feeds being deleted, or posts or comments being deleted on there because they're breaking the NDA. So that'd be a tough job, a Reddit editor. You imagine that?
Without a doubt.
Imagine?
I'm thankful for the people that do it, because that's not something I would want to do, man. No, thank you.
All right, so moving on to closed beta into the open launch day. Now, there's some speculation again on what we think the population of New World is going to be on launch. Now, this, and we've kind of talked about this in recent episodes, this is going to be a AAA launch. I think a lot of people are discounting the fact that the game is meant to be a large game that a lot of people play. This is no longer a niche PvP game that you may attract maybe tens of thousands of people on launch. Again, we look at numbers from ESO, which I think is the last AAA launch. You can consider probably Black Desert the same thing. And we got some numbers on some estimations that we both think are pretty low, and the tens of thousands of people, and even some people had guessed around the 30,000, 40,000 mark. Bordy, what are your initial thoughts on what we think the population of the game at launch will be?
Huge. I think there's going to be a massive amount of people that play this. I think a conservative estimate is 500,000 people. I think a conservative estimate is 500,000 people on launch day, and I'll tell you why, man. This game does not have if you look at Reddit, and if you look at if you look at their Twitter following and their YouTube following, it's not a ton, right? It's not a ton. However, I can guarantee you that those numbers, like the amount of people that follow New World on Twitter, is not a good indication of the amount of people that are going to play the game on release. The views on the trailer, on the New World trailer, is way on up there. I forgot how many, but it's in the millions. And I think that there have been already a ton of people pre-order this game. And I do believe that as we get closer to the actual launch date, I do fully think you'll see a boatload of marketing being pumped out everywhere. And on Amazon itself, on the largest online retailer in the world, you're going to have a lot of New World ads, I think, being thrown out there. And so I think that it's going to be enormous. I think it's going to be a pretty large release, man. And these people that are guessing like 10K people, I think that's quite a bit low. What do you think, man?
Okay, so I'm trying to find some numbers for us real quick on see what the launches of all these games look like. A lot of the your big ones, and these are just random numbers here. I can't find anything concrete, so I hate to say it, but I know for sure that in ESO that the game launched, it had millions of people who played.
Yeah.
So that if we consider that the last popular MMO to release, then you're looking at in the 7-digit range Now, as of 2017 in February, these numbers are pretty old. They had sold 8.5 million copies. I think the game at that point had probably been out for a couple years already. So I do remember the launch being millions of people. Of course, you have the number one MMO ever has sold, I mean, like 40 million copies or something like that.
Yeah, it's over the lifetime though, I think, and not
right. And these games are 10 years old,
yeah.
but you're looking at these are popular MMOs, and those are the numbers that you're looking at. You know, again, these are numbers that are more realistic with a Amazon product, I think, or a New World product that shoots for not just attracting, again, PvP players, but PvE players, crafters, and the MMO population at large. This includes anybody that's attracted to any MMO. I think a lot of your MMO players are open to trying something new at launch time, and this will kind of bridge into our next topic here in a bit. But you know, whether they retain this population or not, that's a different story. But I do think at launch, there's going to be at least, like I think you said, conservatively, hundreds of thousands of people that download the game.
Yeah, without a doubt, man. It's gonna be big. And I think as it goes on, I think that people are gonna be surprised. You know, I know there's a lot of people out there that are mad from the PvP changes and whatever, but I do believe this game's gonna be a really big MMO. I think that because of the combat that we've seen, and just because of just all of the aspects of the game taken as a whole, there are people that aren't happy about it. But whenever you look at the game from a big picture and you take your bias out about the full loop PvP and the hardcore stuff, you take that out and you look at it and you take it as just an MMO. It has a lot of good features in it, and I think that it's going to be really, really big. And they have a lot of money to throw at marketing as well. And I think it's going to be a really big game. And I think launch is gonna be a lot of people.
Yes, and here's the challenge that I think New World faced as it's kind of going through the alpha phases of the game. It initially attracted a group of people that were interested in one thing. Now, that group of people is typically a niche, a very small niche, and Amazon realized very quickly that they're not catering, or their idea was to not cater to such a small audience. They wanted to, be available and accessible to a much larger general MMO audience. So then they made some changes, and unfortunately for the people that were interested in that niche, they're no longer being served by New World. So there was a period, or maybe we're still in that period. It seems to be getting better within the forums and on Reddit. Those people are kind of realizing that the game's no longer going to cater to them. They're kind of moving on. And then you see more people that are more hyped about the game kind of coming in. And we talked about this before. Generally, the MMO audience is open to something new. And still, to this day, I believe that there are millions of people interested in a good MMO. Now, New World's not out yet. Neither one of us have really played it at any point recently. But we do believe that the product at launch and moving forward, we're not saying that, and neither one of us think that New World's going to be the product that it is forever at launch. They're going to continue to work on the game. I have faith that Amazon's going to put out a product that's going to at least cater to most of those people that are looking for a new, interesting MMO.
Yeah, I think so, man. I think it's going to be big, and I think launch is going to have way more people in it than that thread than some of the people on Reddit are saying or thinking. It's my prediction anyway. I could be 100% wrong. That's just what I.
No, let's make this interesting, Bordy. Okay.
Okay.
I'm sure I'm sure they'll release the numbers at some point after launch. No, we'll do. Okay. Let's do a little bit of a wager here. Okay, we'll get the closest person to the population at launch.
All right.
I don't. We should probably choose something to wager other than. Well, we can just make it a gentleman's bet. We'll just winner gets bragging rights. Okay.
Okay.
All right. So what number? Give me a number here, Bordy, on population at launch, or people that try it on launch day.
All right. My guess is 700,000 people. Man, that's my guess. That's a lot of people, but that's my guess. 700K.
That is a lot of people. I don't think they've went through their marketing phase yet to market the game. I know how many people
No, they haven't.
I know how many people are in like the Reddits and stuff like that, but I do believe that it's not a good disservice to the game. How many followers are on Twitter? Do they have?
Only like 20K. Only like 20
Yes,
something.
these are pretty
25K,
bold predictions by us.
Yeah.
I'm gonna shoot in the 400K range.
Okay.
Conservatively, I think it's very possible that within the first week there might have been millions of people or a million people that have tried it. But I'm gonna shoot for 400 on launch day.
Yeah, and I mean we could be being completely optimistic here, and there may only be like 30K people, but I really don't think that's going to be the case. I just don't see it. I know there's a lot of people out there yearning for a new MMO. People want it, and I think that there's going to be some top streamers, okay, some top streamers on Twitch streaming this game day one. All right, so whenever they play it. And this will kind of lead into our next topic, I guess, a little bit. But whenever they play it, if the game works on day one and it's looking good, there is going to be a ton of people get the game on that day and download it.
So a lot the general population now is the wait and see approach to New World and most games, where they do want to see someone play it first. And Twitch kind of is really good at providing that type of service to people who want to see a game before it's actually out. Or before they buy it anyways. And so, yeah, you make a good point. The population could easily skyrocket past the first few hours or days of gameplay of people buying. Yeah. So,
and we'll have probably a solid 3 weeks of beta that is not under NDA that we can stream and create YouTube content for and all of that jazz before the actual day of release. So that's going to be a ton of marketing in and of itself. And then you have probably they are going to make a marketing push, I would fully assume. And I think that's a pretty safe bet that they're going to do something like that. So I don't think we've seen the numbers yet. Like I think it's going to surprise people. That's my guess.
Yes, I do too, Bordy. And this will move us on to our next topic here. What we think Amazon needs to do to ensure a good release. Now, again, we are speculating at this point, and some of you probably, if you've made it this far into the podcast, are saying these guys are scumbag fanboys that don't really, want to be honest about the game. And number one, this is a podcast about New World. I'm not sure what you were expecting when you tuned in for us to just be negative about the game for 30 minutes or not. But I generally, I think both of us have faith in Amazon's abilities to provide, again, a good product on launch and beyond, because MMOs can thrive on the content that is produced after launch. You look at games like Elder Scrolls Online, Final Fantasy XIV, who literally redid their entire game after launch. Games like that. That now do hold a triple or hundreds of thousands, even the millions player base, and these are games that failed at launch. So our thoughts are what does Amazon need to do to have a good launch and maybe even retain more of those people initially and moving forward. So number one, Bordy, and I think you'll agree on this, and I'll let you kind of continue on with the conversation. They need to have good, what the word, you know what it is, and I know what it is too. Performance. There we go. Sorry, I got lost in my own train of thought.
I thought what you were doing for a second. I thought you were waiting for me to finish your sentence, and I was like, "Red, we're not there yet, man. You know what I mean? Like,
we're never going to be there.
No, man. With that, no, we're not. We're not there. And so. I was a little concerned for a second, but all right, now it makes sense. You just couldn't find the words.
Yeah. I'm having some trouble there, buddy.
Yeah.
Performance, guys. This is the key factor to retaining your player base first and foremost. Now, you're not going to get to end game in 10 minutes. You're not going to get to being bored of the gameplay in 10 minutes. Hopefully. What you are going to get is if you can't log into the server for 3 hours on launch day, you're going to lose some interest in your player base because we want when we buy a game, we spend $40. Would happen to be the case in New World. People want to play the game. They want to actually not sit in a queue for 7 days and get disconnected and all this and all that. So performance is the number one thing, Bordy. So let's talk a little bit about what we think New World's performance needs to look like or will look like on release day.
So I know this is gonna sound like I'm some fanboy of the game, but I'm trying to put all the pieces together here, right? And all the facts that I know. And I think that if anybody's gonna pull off a successful, like in terms of strictly performance, I'm not talking about gameplay, I'm not talking about anything else, but in terms of the servers working and having people log in and being able to accept the capacity of people that are gonna be there on day one, I think Amazon can do it, and I think they will do it. I think on day one, I do not think we're going to have performance issues. I think it's going to release. I think that I'm not saying there's not going to be bugs and other things to work out, but strictly performance, I think we will be able to log in and play the game no problem on day one, no matter how many people are signed up. They have more. I mean, they look at all the servers they have, man. The capacity they have to house this type of stuff is unreal. So if anybody can pull it off, they can. And it is, in my opinion, the number one most important thing, like you said, because look at was it Lost Oasis, whatever game that was here recently that released. I was going to buy that game because it looked dope. I wanted to play it. It looked really fun. And then I didn't buy it because I'm one of those people that wanted to wait and see, because every time I've bought a game that's kind of developed like by an indie developer or whatever of that scale, every single time, Ark, Conan Exiles, this one, The Last Oasis, any of them, man, they always have the same problem that their servers cannot handle the capacity on day one, and they couldn't. Their servers crashed, and they're offering full refunds for everybody who bought that game right now for an extended period of time, no matter how long they were able to play it. And they shut their servers down for 7 days, so 7 more days until the game comes back up, and who knows if it'll work then. So it's like I didn't buy that game specifically for that reason. And now I'm glad I didn't. I'm not trying to bash that game or anything. I don't know a whole lot about it, other than it looked really dope, and I think it will probably be fun. But they got to get that sorted out, right? And so because of that, they probably have so many refunds flooding in, right? And now look at the population that bought the game that probably will never go back and play it because they're mad because it didn't work on day one. I think that is so important to this game, and with it being their first MMO. Or their first game period, they're going to want it to work right. And I think they're going to be able to pull it off. I'm very optimistic about it. So we'll see.
Yes. Now, they do have a different server situation than most games at launch. Amazon, we all know, is a large company with a lot of assets in the cloud space and beyond their servers, their network capabilities. All of that is going to be very key to this release, because we've never seen an MMO that I know of in recent past that has its dedicated servers. Now, ESO, again, we kind of refer to this as the last AAA MMO to release. They have a super server, basically. If you've ever played the game before, they have an NA and an EU server. It's all linked together, basically, through instancing. Basically, there are different instances of the worlds that you can be in or spawn into, but you're all connected. You can all eventually play together if you group up, et cetera, et cetera. So New World is going to have a different type of situation with multiple servers, kind of like a WoW type situation. I know a lot of MMOs do have multiple servers, but WoW is the biggest one that comes to my mind that has, like, I don't know what the last count of servers it has, but it has, I think, closest to 100 servers or more. I could be way off there, but I know it's a lot. And so New World is going to pose that type of model. They are propping, or at least promoting, the idea of each server being separate and all of the communication happening on the server side, so they can really check, for cheating. They check for a lot of things, but also it reinforces the idea that the performance is going to be top notch, because not a lot of stress is going to be coming through the user side, and all of it's going to be maintained on the server side, which they are limiting the populations for each server. They haven't really gave us a number that we know about right now that's solid. Bordy, do you have any idea what the server size is?
I think on release, I think I've seen some. I could be wrong, but I'm almost certain I've seen somewhere that they said they're shooting for 1,000 players per server on release, and then they were looking to possibly expand that to 2,000 later on down the road. That's what I've seen. Not sure if that's completely accurate, but I think it's going to be somewhere in that
At
neighborhood.
one time.
At one time, I think we can expect on one server, the server to be capped at 1 to 2,000 people, like concurrent players on one server at one time. That would be my guess. Yeah.
Sure. So then they'll go down the route of high population, or they'll limit you, kind of like WoW does, where like,
Yeah.
oh, this is capped, but we're recommending these for new players, yada yada
Mhm.
yada. So, yeah, we'll see how that goes. But I think it's the number one priority is good performance. Now, Bordy, the second idea that I had that Amazon needs to do to ensure a good release is having a good end game on release. This is something important that I know. I hate to beat a dead horse here, but we're going to go down the ESO path again. It was the last, we consider it the last AAA MA. It had almost no good end game at launch. They had a really poor system called veteran ranking that took you forever to get through. And then once you got there, there was really nothing at the end. They added an in-game zone, I think, a month down the line. But there was nothing there for people that kind of got to max level to do. And that's my fear for New World at this point, is making sure that they have a good end game in to keep people playing that do enjoy the game, that do press through the combat and want to get to level 50 and complete and compete in these end game features. They got to be worth it, man. And Bordy, what are your thoughts on the need for an end game at launch?
I agree. I think that wouldn't be my number two, but I do think it's very important to have an in game at launch like that. And that is probably, if anything concerned me about the game at this point, that would be it, right? Is the end game, the end game initially, because there's going to be a lot of people that get to level 60 pretty quickly and then play the game. And I don't know how fast it is to level, but there's going to be people that play this a lot and they get to the end game quick. And you want to be able to retain those players. And so if the sieges and the things that they've shown us that we know are in game at this point, if they're not good, or if they get redundant and they get boring and there's not enough to keep people there, then that could be a problem. I agree. And I'm not real sure what I don't know how good they are, how much longevity the systems they have in place right now have, because we haven't really seen anything in terms of in-game except for like the sieges and maybe the invasions. So that will be interesting to see. And that's probably my only concern about the game at this point is the type of in-game we'll have in the beginning. But my number two, Red, would have been combat, good combat in an MMO. That's just for me. And I know a lot of people play MMOs for different reasons, but I think if your combat's poor in an MMO initially and you're running around and you're not having fun fighting stuff, because everybody's going to be running around fighting stuff in the beginning. I think most MMOs, that's kind of part of it, right? And if it's not engaging and fun, then I think in 2020, people are looking for something like that. If it's just boring, I don't know how long you're going to be able to retain people initially, right? Like I think people may back out, but in-game probably would have been, third or fourth on my list.
Sure. Okay, so the combat's a good point. We know at this point they have a different combat than we've seen in most MMOs, more of like a Dark Souls action-based combat, more along the lines of a single-player RPG than a multiplayer RPG. And I think it's very polarized in the fact that if you don't enjoy that type of combat, then obviously you wouldn't like it. But I know plenty of people that don't enjoy tab target combat anymore. I'm one of those people that now that I've tasted the action combat in ESO and in games like Guild Wars 2, where you can dodge and move and all that stuff, it's hard to go back to that. I need to memorize like a 30 skill rotation, all of that stuff. So I think we're moving past that into more of an action thing. This is completely action-based combat where, we've spoken a lot about this. If you can dodge, you can dodge. If you line of sight, you line of sight. If, you can block, you can parry, you can do all of this stuff that we're accustomed to in most single-player games, but it's going to be in an MMO setting. And I think the combat's going to be strong. Now, the only way you won't enjoy it is if you don't enjoy that particular set of combat. It may be considered slow to some people, but
Yeah.
but there's a lot of skill involved with it to be good, and I think it's going to be good in there. But it is a good thing that they will do. Then they need to nail it at launch for sure.
Yeah.
Kind of back to the in-game thing. This is the thing that I see a lot of MMOs fail at, and you get your hardcore players that rush to the end of the game, and then there's nothing there for them. And what do? They just leave and they never come back. They go back to the
Right.
MMO that they were playing before, knowing that that game probably has like 4 or 5 years worth of in-game content that's kind of built up. And so, do we expect New World to have that level of in-game at launch? No. But we expect to have something there that holds people until they are able to release some content, be it a couple months down the line? I think you have to now, right? I think you have to have something like that that will at least get those players by until you're able to get your first set of content out after launch.
Yeah. I think so, man. I think so. And in one of the articles they released, they did say that they had some players reach level 60. So if the alpha, if people were able to reach level 60 within like, a couple weeks of playing the alpha, then people are going to be able to reach level 60, with, I would assume, within a couple of weeks of playing after launch. And if that's the case, then yes, I mean, I hope they have a good end game and enough to keep people interested and going. So I guess we'll see. One of the big things for me too. So I probably would put this one maybe at number 3, maybe even before in game is the UI of an MMO. It bothers me to no end whenever I get into an MMO and the UI is clunky and crappy and hard to navigate and not very user friendly. I can't stand that, man. And there's a lot of MMOs and just a lot of games, period, they're like that. So I hope that it has, all the screenshots I've seen looks like it has a really good UI. It looks very functional, looks nice, looks sleek. So I think they'll nail that one down, but I think that's a pretty important one too. Just some people don't care, but for me, it's a big one.
Yeah, agree to disagree there. I think UI is important, obviously, but in 2020, I just feel like, come on, you gotta. That's like a recommendation or a prerequisite for any type of game at this point. If you can't,
it is.
If you can't nail a
You're
UI,
right.
then we have larger problems.
Yeah, I agree, but that's why I say it's one of the things they need to have right on launch, or else people are just going to be, that's a bad first impression. You don't have a good UI, it's bad, and there are games out there, I won't name any names, that have some pretty crappy UIs that aren't very functional or very good right now that are planning on releasing in 2020. So I don't. Listen, man, that's just one of my pet peeves, one of the things that I can't stand. And you're right. If they don't have a good UI, that should be one of the easier things to nail down, right, in 2020. So then that would lead you to think that there's other issues there. It would me anyway. It'd throw up a red flag for me. So I think that they need to nail that down too. I think they will.
No, I agree with you on the fact that it could hurt a game severely, because if you're looking to poor new player experiences, and this can kind of tie into the UI thing, also kill an MMO. So and there have been some reports on some of the articles that we've read about reviews of the alpha, be it, that say that it is slow to start. Now that can kind of push off some of your people that have a poor new player experience. It's basically like, you get in the game, it's very slow and there's a lot of direction to be had, and maybe you just don't know what to do, and people get frustrated. And I mean, I hate to say it, but some people like to have their hand held. And personally, I hope New World's not one of those games. I hope it gets you to a certain point and then lets you go open to the open world to explore and level in that manner. But I think it's important to kind of show people how to play the game initially, so that they, don't get frustrated and quit. And from what I've read, also, I think the game is very good about helping you get in touch with your weapon and your skills within your weapon as you level, to kind of slowly introduce you to all the different types of combat styles, so that when you do get to max level and you're in game and you're starting to do open world PvP and all of that stuff, that you are well accustomed to your character's play style.
Yeah, for sure. I agree 100% that the new player experience in general can drive people away without a doubt. There's been a lot of MMOs that I have played over the past couple of years did not have a very good new player experience, and that was one of the problems and one of the things that people have posted all over the forums and griped about and left the game because of that, because they couldn't figure out how to get started. I don't From what I understand, the problem with the new player experience in New World was that it was just really boring. It wasn't the fact that you didn't know what to do or how to do it. It was that the quests were extremely cookie cutter and it was very boring. And I think that it was at IGN. It was one of those articles that we covered. We covered that a few podcasts back. Yeah, and that's what they were saying, is that it was very boring. It was very slow, and the quests were very boring, and you kind of had to go through those to get to the next phase of the game. But once you got past that, it was really fine. So it's kind of a tutorial area. So I hope it's not too terribly boring, and that it can hook people. I think you need that good hook in the beginning, right?
Yes.
Like, oh man, this is easy, this is fun, this is really cool. It makes me want to keep playing, right? Like, you got to have that good first impression, that good hook. And I hope that they nail that, because that one article didn't sound very promising that they had that. So I hope that they get that right before release.
Right, and you would hope that Amazon pays attention to a big name like IGN.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Hopefully they can adjust that new player experience, because one thing's guaranteed about those hundreds of thousands or millions of people, or whatever the people that we think are going to be there on launch, is they're going to be, all of them are going to experience that first few hour or 2 hours or 3 hours of gameplay in the game. So you have to nail that, like you had said, Bordy.
Yeah,
all right.
if they can get in the game, and we hope that they can, we think they'll be able to.
Yes, we think so. We hope
Yes.
so. We're being positive here, folks.
That's
if you
right.
haven't, this is episode 11. If you haven't gathered that yet, then maybe, tune into episode 12. See if we're positive then too. That'll about do it for this episode of New World to Go. Bordy, why don't you tell people where they can find you?
Yeah, man, you can find me over at YouTube. It's youtube.com/thebdlg. Twitter is at thebdlg. Twitch is just twitch.tv/bdlg. There's no the. And then, of course, over on studioloot.com, creating content over there on a regular basis.
And I am Redbird, that is with a Y. You can find me over at Twitch and YouTube under the same name. Twitter, I am Redbird. Also, well, you know what? That's about it. I don't do much for my Instagram nowadays, but you can follow it. It's all right. There's pictures of Gary over there, so go check that out as well. We thank you guys for listening. We know this episode was a little off topic and speculatory, but we're gonna enjoy these as time progresses, because soon we'll be in closed beta, and everything we're gonna be talking about is going to be current and up to date news about the game, and we look forward to that time. But we also kind of enjoy this, because we're into New World, if you haven't gathered that. So thanks for listening, guys. We really appreciate it. Hope you guys have a good week, and we'll see you next time on another episode of New World to Go.